Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Mondays with Mundy. That's me, Jim Mundy, the historian for the Union League Legacy Foundation at the Union League of Philadelphia. And I hope you're coming back, because I hope that means I'm doing a decent job with these. And if this is your first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. And this is going to be really interesting and fun. So, as most of you know by now, when you listen to me babble and rabble, you know that I like to connect historical dots, especially the dates. And so you will be watching this on September the 14th at the earliest. So that's Monday, September the 14th. But on September the 1st and 2nd of 1870, and that's where our story begins. So let's get to the story. All right, and that means I have to share my screen because I'm going to show you the PowerPoint. Okay. Let's see if this worked. Come on, off we go. Okay, here we go. I think we made it. All right. And as you can see, I'm calling it An American Dentist in Paris. And I hope you all get that reference, okay? Because after all, the dentist is the hero of the story. Right, so let's go. These are the first two people we encounter. The gentleman on the right is Louis Napoleon III. He is the first president of the French Republic in 1848, and then he will become the last monarch in the Second Empire in 1852. The young lady on his left will become his future wife. That is the Countess Eugenie de Mojito. She was from a number of Spanish royal families, and they met at a royal ball in Paris in 1849. And they would, well, I guess, fall in love. And they would get married in 1853, and they would become the royal couple, right? Because the beginning of the story revolves around them. And how so? Let's find out. All right. This is the Battle of Sedan. Now, the Franco-Prussian War of 1870-71. What has happened in between? In the 1860s, Prussia, through Otto von Bismarck, became the most powerful of the Western European countries. Napoleon, Louis III, if you will, wanted to kind of recapture France's dominant position in Western European life in general. And so he was kind of goaded into declaring war against Prussia and the North German Confederation in 1870 in order to do that. And so this is a diagram of the Battle of Sedan, which took place on September 1st and 2nd of 1870. And Sedan is a small city in the northeast corner of France. And you can see in the upper right-hand corner of the illustration, the border with Belgium. So it's right about 5 miles away. The Germans are in blue, the French are in red. And as you can see, the French are surrounded by the Germans. And it would lead to the capitulation or the surrender of the French army on the 2nd of September. Now, it just so happened that, let me go back to an earlier slide, you can see Louis in his military uniform. Well, Louis went with the army, all right? He was born in 1808, and here it is, 1870. So he's an old man, and he's been very ill for a while. And he was not in, he shouldn't have been with them, to be honest, all right? But on the 2nd, but knowing that the jig was up, he surrendered the French army of Chalon with approximately 100,000 men. He was taken captive by the Germans, the Prussians, and this is he on the, that is he on the left, that is Louis III, and that is Otto von Bismarck on the right, and they are conferring, because obviously Louis was still treated as French, as European royalty. All right, so France will, the Second Empire, as it was, will cease to exist just a few days afterwards when a new government is proclaimed, a new republic is proclaimed in Paris. And that led to an issue with the Princess Eugenie because she was there behind acting as the regent for her husband. The French Republic, okay, and this is she in a photograph in the mid-60s. This is pretty much what she looked like at the time of the Franco-Prussian War. So, but as you can imagine, a lot of the Parisians were upset with the collapse of the Second Empire. The Republic was taking form, and it was time for Princess Eugenie to get out of Dodge, if you will. And this is what happened. All right, this is the painting by a French artist, and it shows September the 7th of 1870, the French palace, the Tuileries, where the royal couple lived. You can see the Princess Eugenie walking down the front steps, and she's being escorted into a carriage on the left-hand side. And there is a gentleman, as you can see, holding up he has a top hat and his cane in his right hand, and he's escorting the princess in the carriage. That is the hero of our story, and that is Thomas W. Evans, dentist from Philadelphia and a Union League member. So how did it come that Thomas W. Evans would be responsible for saving the life of the Princess Eugenie? Because that's exactly what he did. He kept her at his apartment in the neighborhood of the Bois du Boulogne, that great park in Paris, off the bank of the Seine, the Pont de Neuilly, in that neighborhood, if you will. He then disguised the princess and a companion. You can see her there. He disguised them as older women and as patients of his. He had a fake passport for the princess. He had taken care of all of her dental records and things like that. And he was able to get her to the French coast, Deauville, where she was picked up by an English yacht and then carried to England, where she would remain basically the rest of her life. Her husband in 1871 was united with her in England, and he would die there in 1873. So what about Thomas W. Evans? How did he get to be there? All right. And how did he get to save the life of the princess? Well, let's go find out. All right. So this is Thomas Evans and a portrait of him by G.P.A. Healy that is in the Evans collection now at the University of Pennsylvania Dental School, and we can explain that in a minute. So Evans was born in what is now West Philadelphia on December 23rd of 1823. At the age of 14, he apprenticed to a goldsmith, but he also became an apprentice to a dentist at the same time. And back then, dentistry was still in its infancy, especially in America. I mean, in Europe, it barely existed at all. But Evans was apparently bright, brilliant, and good with his hands. And one of the things that would make him the dentist to the royal families of all of Europe eventually was the fact that he pioneered the use of gold fillings, among other things, and then nitrous oxide. So he clearly knew what he was doing. He received what would pass for a dental degree in 1843. He was friends with Samuel Stockton White, who a Philadelphian and a future League member himself. The White Dental Manufacturing Company would become the largest of its kind in the world, and Evans would have his own line of dental equipment and supplies made through the White Company. I mean, that's how good a dentist that Evans was. So Evans, let's go back to the story. All right. There is a colleague of his who knew of an American dentist in Paris named Brewster, who was looking for an assistant. Evans volunteered, went to Paris in 1848, and that is, they say, all that history wrote, because he would basically become a resident of Paris for the rest of his life. All right. So he's in Paris in 1848. And he is actually the one who enabled the Countess de Mojito, Eugenie, and her mother to attend that royal ball in 1848, because the Mojitos didn't have the money to do it, and Evans gave it to them. So you can see how, at the very beginning, he's becoming connected to royal families. In 1850, the King Maximilian II of Bavaria would become one of his first patients, as would the Duchess de Rochefoucauld. And once word of mouth got around to the other royal families, not only in Paris, but in all the rest of Europe, that Evans was a brilliant dentist, when in France at that point in time, dentistry was considered nothing more than a street sideshow, basically, quackery. Evans had credibility, and with that, he would become not only the dentist, but the confidant of many of these European royals. All right, so here's Evans as an older man, portrait on the left, and a photograph on the right. You gotta love those mutton chops, aren't they great? Even General Burnside in the American Army would have done something as good as that. So Evans became a confidant of both the royal couple itself, and especially Louis III. And that was important because Evans remained an American his entire life, was very interested in American history and politics, and would come back to Philadelphia periodically. And as again, he had a relationship with the White Dental Manufacturing Company based in Philadelphia. And it turns out that Evans was in Philadelphia in 1862. For whatever reasons, we're not clear on those. But Evans would join the Union League of Philadelphia on February the 10th of 1863. And the League was only organized on December the 27th of 1862, so he's a very early member of the League. as was Samuel Stockton White. So a wonderful dental connection there, if you will. So Evans also became involved with the United States Sanitary Commission, Philadelphia branch, and things like that. And Evans is credited with convincing Louis III to basically not join the English in supporting the cause of the Confederacy during the Civil War. And that was important because if France and England had done that, then the results of the war might have been very, very different. So Evans, always the patriot, always the American, and the Philadelphian, and the Union League member, was able to convince Napoleon that it was a bad thing to do. So, right. Evans would come back to Philadelphia for the 1876 centennial, and he would come back to Philadelphia to bury his wife. Now, he married her in 1846. Her name was Agnes Doyle. Her father was a merchant in Philadelphia, and they would live together in Paris for the rest of their lives. What do we have next here? Now, I mentioned that Evans would become the dentist to all the royal houses in Europe, and I mean literally from England as far to the east as Russia, Greece, and even minor houses in Asia, places like that. And of course, for his efforts and his confidentiality, he was given many awards by many of these different royal houses, and you can see them here on his jacket. So he was obviously a very discreet man, because without being discreet, he would not have gained their confidence. So Evans would build up a small fortune. He learned, through his connections in Paris. He became a real estate investor in Paris itself. He also bought some real estate in New York City alongside Central Park, and he also bought real estate and developed real estate in Philadelphia as well, especially in West Philadelphia, where he built many like smaller row homes and single-family homes as well. So he would amass a fortune of approximately $9 million. Not bad for a dentist at all. What do we have next? Okay, so Agnes Evans would die in Paris in April of 1897. Thomas Evans would accompany her body to Philadelphia, and she was buried in the Woodland Cemetery at 40th and Woodland in West Philadelphia. Now, he obviously, it took it very hard. I mean, it wasn't maybe the best relationship, but still, she was his wife, and he never really recovered from what I can learn and discover. And he would die just a few months later on November the 14th of 1897. And it was in his will, it was discovered that he would leave approximately $250,000 to friends and family, but the bulk of his estate was left to the University of Pennsylvania to create a school of dentistry and a museum to the history of dentistry itself. And the museum would be filled with items from Evans's own personal collection. You can see he was an art collector. He knew many of the great French Impressionists of the time, book collector, other forms of decorative arts, as you can see. And most importantly, what do we have? The carriage. That is the actual carriage that was driven on September the 7th of 1870 to take the Princess Eugenie with Dr. Evans to safety to the French coast. So amazing that it was still there, isn't it? And what's amazing even more is that it is still there. All right, this is the coach, the carriage as it looks today. It was restored through the efforts of a previous dean of this dental school, Dr. Kinane. The work was done by hand by Amish artisans in Lancaster County, which is wonderful because Evans's first true job as a dentist was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So what a story, huh? All right, Thomas Evans, born in West Philadelphia, becomes one of the greatest doctors and dentists in all of Western Europe, confidant of royalty, an American and a Civil War patriot, and a host of being a founding member of the Union League, all rolled together in one. And that's one heck of a story, and there aren't many like it. So I hope you've all enjoyed the story so far. It is really, it's a pretty good one, isn't it? I mean, you got to admit, that's the kind of stuff you couldn't make up, right? I hope so. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, as you can imagine, there are many details I left out because we don't have enough time for all that. But you can always email me to find out more at mundyj@unionleague.org. So that's MUNDYJ @unionleague, one word, .org. And happy to answer. and tell you more about Dr. Thomas Evans. Oh, I forgot to do one thing. Let me go back to the slideshow because this one I think you'll really enjoy. You've got to see this. I mean, obviously, Evans was no wallflower. He had an ego, clearly. After all, and why not? He was if you're the dentist to all of royalty in Europe. Here we go. All right, this is the Evans monument at the Woodland Cemetery in West Philadelphia. All right, it is considered at this point, to the best of the knowledge of the people at Woodlands, the tallest cemetery obelisk in the United States. It's between 80 and 90 feet tall, just to put that in perspective. All right, you can see it's surrounded by the small piazza, the balustrade. In front of the obelisk itself, you see a sarcophagus, although actually we believe the bodies are buried down beneath in a crypt. And that is where the Evanses spend all of their time nowadays. So I forgot to do that earlier, and I apologize, but it's really worth a look at that. I mean, it's just an amazing monument. You should go there sometime. It dominates the landscape and at the cemetery itself. So that's our story for today. Thank you for watching. Let's thank the Union League Legacy Foundation for sponsoring these weekly videos and episodes. I hope they're entertaining and enjoyable, but also educational at the same time. So, and guess what, folks? We're going to do it again next week. So thank you for watching. Do take care. It's still a little crazy out there, so stay healthy, stay safe, stay well. We'll see you the next time around. Thanks very much. Goodbye.